So then we start episode 116, which begins with this visual of Persephone with, the branches coming out of her back, her hair, trying something with composition here, but she just looks like she has a block for her head in this panel, and she looks upset, and then she sits down, I guess, and looks over her shoulder, and so then we cut to Artemis now. Or no, this is Zeus. Yeah, it's so Zeus. The purple is... It's the same purple as Artemis.
Same purple as Artemis.
But we cut to Zeus's head, and I hate being inside Zeus's head, because not only is he stupid, but I just don't like him as a character, so I don't care about getting his perspective.
Yeah.
So we cut to him, and he's like, if what they're saying is true, that means all that stuff happened right under my nose. Am I that out of the loop? And it's like, I don't care about Zeus. Like, that should not be your reaction as the king of the gods.
No.
It should be like, obviously she didn't do this, and it escaped my notice, all by herself. There's people who are keeping this from me on purpose, right?
I think it's a missed opportunity, or it's really lame that she frames Zeus's reaction to Persephone's act of wrath as, like, being petty and personal, when, again, Zeus has a point.
Yeah.
And she just completely brushes that point aside by saying, oh, well, the reason Zeus is mad is because he's personally offended.
Yeah.
But it's like, no, Zeus has a point. Even if you make it petty and you're like, oh, the only reason he cares is because he's personally offended, it's like, that doesn't erase the fact that he still has a point.
Exactly.
It's like the same thing with that's an example that happens over and over again, where it's like Minty has a point, Apollo has a point, but then it's like, oh, but we don't like Apollo, so just completely forget that what he said has total merit and truth behind it.
Yeah.
She just character assassinates. Well, not really character assassinates, because I don't like Zeus anyway. But it's like, instead of making this an interesting conflict where Zeus is now concerned about the sanctity of the realm and, like, about the conspiracy, which would have been really interesting. Again, he just goes, like, how could, like, anyone undermine my power like that? Just makes it really petty.
Yeah, and he dwells on it for a long time, and it's like, I don't care.
Yeah. It's not interesting.
It's very disinteresting.
If you had made the first couple thoughts about this, instead of, like, this happened under my nose and without my permission, if you made this, like, they were able to pull off that big of a cover-up, what else is going on in this realm that I don't know about?
Yeah.
Like, this is really concerning, because we should be able to have eyes and ears on all of this.
Yeah.
And they were able to get that past me. Like, what else is going on? Does Demeter have that much power?
Yeah.
Who else was in on this?
He should also be thinking, like, how did Hades not notice?
Is Hades not doing his job?
Yeah. So that's a couple things. Additionally, it would have been great if he had thought about Eros' act of wrath and how he had dealt with that. And then he could have been like, these guys they're just all over the place. Mm-hmm. This has been going on too long. Like, Eros, I was able to catch him
before he did anything bad.
Yeah, before anything out of control happened. But this is ridiculous, right? Like, how come I'm hearing from three, like, stooges about this?
Yeah, the three stooges.
Yeah, and, I dealt with Eros in my own way, but I'm going to have to do this a little bit tactfully.
I'm gonna have to make this like an example.
Yeah,
for all the young gods.
Exactly, because this is the second time it's happened, and I'm just gonna have to make an example.
The second time it's happened in like 2 months.
Yeah,
1 month, really.
Yeah. So no mention of Eros. It's like Eros never even committed.
I know,
that act
right?
Of wrath,
like
right?
we remembered the act of wrath more than Rachel did.
Yeah, and so Minty and Thanatos leave. Thetis stays behind and says, "You'll talk to Hades about this, right?" And it's like, yeah, you should, because, I mean, if there's a bunch of people, a sudden influx, how come he didn't notice, right? And instead of being like, yeah, I will, Zeus says, why? And she goes, oh, no reason. Good night, then.
Yeah, these guys are so dumb. If they wanted to manipulate Zeus into getting Hades, like, in on this conversation,
yeah,
they should have said something like, well, he's the king of the underworld, and he didn't notice that huge influx of souls. And you know how he's treating Persephone, right? Is he the one undermining your confidence?
Yeah, Zeus.
That would have been so interesting.
Easy. It would have been easy.
It would have been easy. They would have been like, well, like, why wouldn't you talk to Hades?
Yeah.
He's the one who's up Persephone's butt,
yeah,
and he's the king of the underworld, so how did he not notice that influx of souls?
Mm-hmm.
Is Hades the one undermining your power? Because we've been told the whole reason he banished him to the underworld is because he was insecure about Hades.
Yeah. Yeah.
Are you guys stupid?
Yeah.
Why did you just say that?
They are stupid.
Like, Zeus has all the reason in the world to suspect Hades.
Yeah, because it's like, well, how do you know he wasn't covering this up for her the entire time?
Exactly, because he's awfully interested in Persephone.
Yeah, and not only that, but if they somehow found out that the two of them had met before, too,
Exactly.
And they'd be like, look,
the evidence is all
before.
here.
Yeah, they met before. They've been talking before. They have each other's phone numbers. She summoned him to her house.
He got her this cushy internship.
Yeah.
Hera helped him with it.
Yeah.
They're all conspiring against you, Zeus.
Because isn't it a thing where it's like the more souls that Hades has, it's like the better it reflects on him or something? Like, so to him, he gets more money from unpaid labor from these souls, right? So it's like, how do you know he's not just trying to make his own wealth, or how do you know he's not just trying to like...
That makes no sense. There's no world building for that, but it could have been made in a way if she had been cleverer with the world building. Like, the more souls he has in the underworld, the more souls he controls with his shade slave labor, the more powerful he is. And then they could say something like, you know, Hades should have to like Hades has been growing because the underworld is portrayed as like more slick and stylish than Olympus.
Yeah.
And they could be like, Hades is a real threat to your power. He's been parlaying this whole shade system. Like, you thought it would screw him over, but he's actually become really clever about it. He controls all the banks because he's turned this around in his favor.
Yeah.
And now there's this huge act of wrath that led, just so coincidentally, to an influx of souls to his realm, more money in his pocket, and a very powerful fertility goddess. And if fertility goddesses are like super powerful in this universe, which they are, then it's yet another reason to get Zeus to suspect Hades conspiring against him and trying to take over all three realms.
Yeah.
That would have been so much more interesting.
Additionally, I know there is a mention of him saying in like the current Lore Olympus, I saw it out of context, so I could be misunderstanding.
Yeah.
But he says, my father possessed me, basically. Mm-hmm. So if you also have it so that Hades has to serve as the vessel for Kronos, it could be like, dude, if he gets too powerful, could you imagine what would happen if Kronos took control of him, right? That would be bad for everybody.
Well, so I kind of skipped over the trial and the possession of Hades, and I'm not super clear on how it happened or what went on there.
Yeah.
I don't know, like, if Kronos can only possess Hades because he's his son, or what the heck is going on there. But supposedly the only reason Kronos got revived is because of Persephone's proximity, which is really stupid.
Yeah, that's stupid.
But like, yeah, I mean, it should just be a threat to Zeus regardless. The fact that he's growing in power and that maybe he has a grudge against me, and like, you could have Zeus find out that he and Hera had an affair, because I don't think he ever finds out.
Ooh,
he never
really?
finds out.
No.
He never finds out. If he finds that out, and he sees that Hera's been helping him, and just so happened to get Persephone under his control, finds out that Persephone's a fertility goddess, finds out that this whole cover-up happened when Hades should have known, that those are all dominoes that lead to him directly suspecting Hades.
Dude, could you imagine if Minthi found out, or Thetis finds out that Hera had an affair with Hades, and she tells Minthi, and Minthi goes scorched earth. She's like, I don't care about Hades anymore. I don't even care about getting back with him. He is just, such a hypocritical piece of trash. Mm-hmm. I just want to ruin his life. So then they tell Zeus, oh, by the way, ask, what about this? And then they have like a picture.
Ask the man you call father.
Yeah, ask the man you call father. Ask your wife what she was doing. She showed up instantly, clockwork, as soon as Hades passed out after getting slapped, right? You could even have Minthi overhearing or like eavesdropping or watching that happen and being like, oh my god, this guy is such a scumbag, right?
Or Thetis, because Thetis wants Zeus to break up with Hera.
Exactly. So Thetis would be like, oh, this is my opportunity. And I think Zeus would break up with Hera if he found out that she was...
It's such a missed opportunity.
That's
such
crazy.
a missed opportunity.
You
could have had a Civil War arc. Yeah. That would have been so much more interesting.
Lore Olympus Civil War.
I know! Yeah. Lore Olympus Civil War, forget Apollo, he sucks.
Yeah.
Hades versus Zeus, let's go. That would have been so much more interesting.
It's a fight for the ages, dude.
Seriously.
So, she leaves, and then we cut back to Demeter outside of Artemis's house. And Artemis is thinking to herself, I thought Persephone was in the mortal realm with her mother, but clearly this isn't the case. And so she's just standing here, not saying anything.
Making SpongeBob expressions.
Going like this. I mean, could you imagine if you're, like, let's say I go to your house, and I'm at the door, and I go, hey, how's it going? And you just go...
Yeah, crumpling up a note and not saying anything.
And she's still thinking. And then she goes, I think she's at a study group. Like, if I was Demeter at this point, I'd be like, dude, I made a mistake in trusting you. There's something wrong with this girl.
There's something wrong with this girl.
Yeah. Yeah, a study group. Oh, would you like to come in? Please don't say yes. Again, wasted panels for comedy.
There's so many wasted panels in this sequence.
Demeter looks really goofy, and
I know,
she looks like Shrek in that.
And what is she staring at? Besides into the camera and into the reader's soul.
She's looking at me.
I know.
I don't like it.
Exactly. Have you ever drawn a panel where your character stares dead into the camera.
No, it freaks me
it's
out.
weird.
The only time I ever do that is if I have those
Like
head-on
a horror visual.
like the head-on Kubrick, straight down the hallway, characters reacting to something scary. You either show what they're reacting to or not. But again, I'm biased because I'm writing a horror comic. So I have moments in the first chapter, or this, I think, yeah, it's the first chapter, and then the most recent chapter I worked on, where it's like a character in like a hallway or some kind of space that's very linear, and they're just looking straight down at what the scary thing is. And that's the only time I do it because it's very creepy and unsettling.
I've never drawn a single panel. I don't have a horror comic. Well, mine has horror elements, but I've never drawn a panel with the character looking dead on into the camera, except when the character was remembering a dead person, and it was from the perspective of that character. In her memory, the person that she's remembering is looking at her, and it's looking at the reader.
Scary, and it's scary.
Yeah.
That was a scary part of
that
the
was
comic.
a scary part of the comic.
It was a scary visual.
Yeah, it was a scary
like,
visual.
Oh, you
yeah,
know?
staring right into your soul.
Yeah, but yeah, this is unintentionally like, that's when you show the panel, it was like,
yeah, do the zoom.
Yeah. So then Artemis says, so what brings you to town? I have some business meetings, so I'll be around for a few days. It was silly of me to pop in out of the blue. Leave it to my daughter to go off somewhere when I'm around. And then again, you have like a very strange...
Why is
picture.
Artemis reacting so sweatily to that?
I don't know. Because she's going to be in there for a few days, but she didn't respond
She
to
didn't
this
respond to
panel.
that panel. She just like has a big eye popping out when she says, it was silly of me to pop in out of the blue. Like, why is she reacting to that?
Blue makes her think of Hades, who makes her skin burn.
But, like...
I don't know.
These like, the writing is, like, by algorithm now.
Yeah, and that's why the next panel, I mentioned this yesterday.
Yeah.
She chuckles, and then you get another speech bubble saying hello. You don't need that panel of her chuckling. Leave it to my daughter to go off somewhere where I'm around, and then you could just have the next panel with hello.
You could just have her chuckling here, because
Exactly.
she already looks like she's chuckling.
And the next panel has less detail anyway.
It's just to meet the panel quota.
Yeah, and so then we get this shot of Apollo, who comes in holding a bag, and I cannot for the life of me figure out what's going on with this bag.
Wait, so who opened the door for Apollo? Because he's holding the bag like this.
I guess they just left the door open.
He just comes in from, like, stage right, and then he says, hello.
Yeah.
Hello. You know the robocall voice?
Oh, hello.
I've got some food from Mom. Who's their mom?
Hera? Aphrodite?
I don't think it's Hera. Who's their mom?
Leto. Oh, yeah, Leto.
So why would you introduce this, like, in the story, if this character isn't a character yet? Why not just have him go to the, like, mortal, like, friggin' supermarket or something? And he's just standing, again, in the middle of the frame.
He's looking at those carrots.
He's looking at the carrots like this. I've got some food from Mom. And he's holding the bag like this, which doesn't make any sense. And the bag is, like, multiple widths. It's shaped like a bottle, where it's, like, skinny at the top and then big at the bottom.
And the bread. Is the bread coming out from behind him, in front of him?
The bread is also shaped like a zigzag, like a lightning bolt piece of bread, because it's in two different places. And it's coming out from behind him, so it's stabbing him through the gut.
He comes in. Hello. Help me. Blood everywhere.
I don't know what's going on. Like, this panel is so weird.
It's odd, and it's used multiple times. 'Cause not only is it used twice there, but then you also see him small in the background. And then again.
I know!
And so,
The
Demeter,
background is full of so much void space, man.
Yeah.
Unrendered void space.
Um,
The background only goes up halfway up this panel.
yeah.
They couldn't even be bothered to finish the render.
No, I think it's because they just took the same background
From an earlier chapter.
From this previous panel right here. Or, not that panel, this panel. They just took this from this previous panel and they
But it's
supersized
still
it.
half the size of the actual panel.
Yeah.
It's so small.
I don't know why. I don't know why you would do that. Again, it's like if you have a scene that you use multiple times, like a location you use multiple times, you're obviously using 3D assets. Why not just make a comprehensive model and then take your snip tool and just take snips of the model after you posed it the way you want to and just drop it into your backgrounds.
Yeah, because it's not like she colors the backgrounds. It's just black and white lines.
So
like, how hard is that?
Yeah, he says, what are you doing here? And she says, the real question is, what are you doing here? Artemis, does your brother often come and go like this? And Artemis doesn't even respond, because the answer is yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does, all the time.
All the time, and he's a rapist.
Yeah, and she doesn't even respond. And he says, well, what I meant is nice to see you. That's not what we agreed on. So she was violating Demeter's wishes the entire time she was doing that, and then she had the gall to act like she and Persephone were like best buddies.
No, she also had the gall to say, Persephone, no men allowed.
Yeah.
Well, you can't just keep inviting random men here. But she was the one who allowed Hermes and Apollo to basically sleep over, and she's like, I'm gonna go to bed now, leaving Hermes and Apollo on the couch when both of the women were in bed.
Not only that, but
didn't kick them out.
No, again, later when he makes the crepes, she goes, well, I've got to go do some work, so I'm leaving.
And she leaves them alone.
And Hermes says, okay, I'll go too. And if that's not what she and Demeter agreed on, why is she doing that so often?
But then also, why did she get on Persephone's case?
Who knows?
For having Hermes around. You can't just keep inviting random guys over. And then she freaked out when Hades dropped her off. When she was the one who took her to the party in the first place. Yeah. And didn't monitor her drinks. Like, you should be concerned that she got roofied and disappeared on you.
Yeah, that's another thing. She gets really concerned when Persephone goes missing, but she didn't get concerned when Persephone went missing in, like,
an entire night.
Yeah,
in the first couple
10
chapters. And when Hades brought her home, she didn't go, like, did you get raped? Because I friggin' left you alone at a crowded party where Zeus the rapist is.
Yeah. She gets really distressed later when they're looking for Persephone.
And then when Hades drops her off, she's like, you know how those guys are.
Yeah.
But you took her to Zeus's party.
Exactly.
And you knew how those guys are more than Persephone does. Why did you take her to his party and not watch her drinks?
And Artemis also said you can't wear that to the party. And she gives her a dress that's like a tissue.
A napkin.
Yeah. Artemis, what are you doing?
Artemis is such a jerk.
What's going on?
I hate Artemis. She's a jerk.
Now we understand.
She's a bad friend.
Yeah. I mean, Apollo and Artemis are both like...
They're in on it together. Artemis gives him his victims to prey on. Artemis hands them to him on a silver platter.
Oh, jeez. So, Demeter takes a look at Apollo, and then she goes, stay the F away from my daughter. Again, it's supposed to be funny, but it's not funny, because we know what Apollo did.
I know.
It's not funny.
It's not funny.
And she goes, I won't take up too much of your time. Let Corey know I'll be back tomorrow. Yes, ma'am. And then Artemis looks very distressed, and then we cut to Eros. And Eros is having a moment with his parents that I don't care about.
No, it's filler. It's not even funny. It's disgusting.
Yeah, so...
Character assassination.
In the background, Artemis is sneaking in through the window. I don't know why she doesn't just go through the front door.
Why didn't she just ring the door?
I don't know why she didn't just do that. And so... Reveal that he is looking at his parents who are in some kind of horse cosplay.
It's just embarrassing.
And Aphrodite is feeding Ares sugar cubes. And then Ares says you should be giving Artemis this decorum lecture. What does Artemis have to do with this? Stop deflecting. And then Artemis, like an idiot, is saying, Persephone, I'm here to save you from this house of debauchery. What was even the thought process of going over to Eros' house? She didn't call him. She didn't text him. She didn't say, have you seen Persephone?
No. She just barged in.
Why didn't she go in through the front door?
It's just stupid. And it's not funny. No. It's not funny at all.
So then Ares says rude, and then we cut to Hades again. And apparently he's watched this tape over and over again.
And it's a still of Persephone's, like, boobs smack dab in the middle of the TV.
I've watched this tape over and
we
over
know.
Yeah. He's got it memorized
I
now.
know.
But that's odd, because it's like, in the time that has passed, that was a pretty lengthy tape, right? So how has he watched it over and over again when not that much time has passed?
No, it's not a lengthy tape. Because it's basically, like, what, a 30-minute conversation? She just sneaks into the thing, and then she says, can mortals be saved from the underworld? He says no. They weren't together that long. Maybe 15, 20 minutes.
So he's watched a 15, 20-minute
And then
tape.
Demeter's interaction with him was another 5, 10 minutes.
Yeah, so he's watched that maybe, like, 20-minute tape over and over again in, like... Because only an hour has passed.
Well, so... Did they cut to Artemis getting the note? And then Demeter showing up, and then they cut to Hades watching the tape for the first time?
No, they show Hades watching... Yeah, so that's what happens. She sees the note, and then they cut to Hades watching the tape, and then after he's done watching the tape...
Then you get the Act of Wrath
Yeah, the
reveal.
Act of Wrath reveal. And then you cut back to Artemis, and no time has passed, because you cut back to Artemis. It's not like during that conversation she's just standing there. Like, while Minthe and Thanatos and Thetis are talking to Zeus...
That happened earlier in the day.
Yeah, it's all happening at the same time.
No, it's not. It's earlier in the day because Minthe, Thanatos, and Zeus are talking Minty, Thanatos, Thetis, and Zeus are talking earlier when Thanatos is like, come on, we gotta go.
Yeah.
During the workday.
Yeah, and so...
when Persephone was getting Minty to teach her how to use the computer.
Yeah.
That's earlier in the workday. No, that's not even earlier in the workday. That's the day before.
Yeah, that was
the day before, because that night, Hades sleeps in her bed, and then they make brunch, and then she sees Apollo and runs away.
Yeah.
So that's a day before. And then she sees Apollo and runs away, and then that night Artemis comes back, because it's nighttime outside.
Yeah.
She sees the note. Meanwhile, at the exact same time, Hades is watching the video.
Yeah.
Or at least after work, Hades is watching the video. It could be a flashback, to be fair. She does that all the time, where she goes zip, 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 zip. And then, like, at 6 p.m., he just left his home, and... Or no. Doesn't Hermes come right after Persephone leaves?
Yeah.
So it is a flashback.
So it's that morning.
It's that morning.
But then we cut back to him, and now this is hours later.
This is at night. He never went to work.
He just watched the video all day. So that answers the question. Okay.
Never went to work.
Okay, I'm on board with that. If he...
It's Thursday morning. Thursday night, Artemis gets the note. Demeter shows up. Hades is like, I watched this tape. I skipped work and watched this tape all day.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense now.
That's so stupid.
Yeah. So...
I think she forgot that Hades didn't go to work that day.
I guess so, because he's dressed for work, but he just didn't show up.
He never showed up because Hermes showed up that morning.
Yeah. And so he says, why in Gaia's name would Persephone want to bring mortals back from the underworld? And he has been watching this tape for hours, and he still can't put it together.
No.
And presumably he's been trying to call Persephone for hours, and he's not worried because she's not responding or picking up or anything.
No, it doesn't even say like it went to voicemail. It says this phone is no longer in service.
So I would be worried about that.
I would be
right?
worried too.
Yeah. Like, did she block me?
Especially when Artemis comes later and then she gives him the note and then he's like, her phone's out of service too. Like, what's going on? Yeah, instead he goes, oh, she went to go visit her mother in the mortal realm.
Such a moron. Yeah, and he goes, and why isn't her phone in service? Maybe she's having second thoughts. Again, he's thinking about himself. And like, what about us?
Yeah, what about our relationship?
And then he sweats. No, she wouldn't cut me out like that. I mean, if this is how slowly his brain works, I guess it makes sense that for the past 8 hours, he still can't put it together.
I guess it makes sense that he never figured out the conspiracy that happened right behind his back to disguise the influx of mortal souls into the underworld. You
know, if I was Hades, I would say, okay, after watching this tape, why does she want to bring souls back from the underworld? Let me go to work and check out
the records.
Yeah. Right? Like Minty, Thanatos, and Thetis did. Right?
And this happened X months ago, and then Hades would also be on the same page and figure out what she did.
Yeah. Instead, he says something's not right. And then right at that very moment, there's a crash. So chapter 117 begins again with the crash. Hades, what on Olympus? Some guard dog you are. He's always just chewing out the dog.
I know. He's doing the funky grandpa in that panel too.
Yeah, and then
two different sized hands.
No, that continues. That persists in all of the panels in this next sequence.
Cerberus's colors change all the time too.
Yeah. And so Artemis and Eros have smashed the window, and Artemis repeats the unfunny line, Persephone, I'm here to save you from this place of debauchery. Well, you could have that. What did we talk about on the way over here? And then I'm Ampullus, who is... Psyche, yes. Where is she? I know you got her. Let's break that down. How does Artemis know that Hades has her?
He doesn't. She's obviously just breaking into everyone's house that has, like, even a tangential connection with Persephone. If Hades hadn't, like, helped her look for Persephone in this scene, she probably just would have moved on to, like, Hera and Zeus's place.
It's so stupid because it's like... correct me if I'm wrong, but Artemis is the one who gave Persephone the phone, right? The old busted up phone?
Yeah,
or was that
her
Eros?
first phone. No, it was Artemis.
Okay,
her first
so
phone, I think.
I mean, why not just try to call her phone first? Realize that the phone, the number is not in service anymore. Go to her room, poke around a little bit, see the fact that she was doing all this stuff.
Why didn't Eros just tell her about Apollo?
That's another thing that I said yesterday. How come Eros literally had to strike the guy down with 10 arrows?
Last time he saw Persephone, she was being attacked by Apollo, and he and Ampullus had to shoot him with 10 arrows, and then he had to spirit her away to his place.
So for her to be there and say...
she went to Eros first, and Eros didn't tell her about Apollo.
No.
So they both just go to Hades' place, and Eros just went with that. He didn't go, oh, well, last time I saw her, she was being attacked by her brother, so maybe we should go find him first.
Eros just went with it.
Yeah, Eros, first he was a date rapist, He put a little something something in her drink and then took her to Hades. And now he's like aiding and abetting Apollo.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, I saw her almost get like attacked by Apollo again.
Yeah.
But I'm not gonna say anything.
Yeah.
Because that might hurt Artemis's feelings or whatever.
There's not even any logic behind it.
There's no logic.
There's no logic for why he wouldn't tell her.
There's no logic for why, like, Hera doesn't do anything and why Eros doesn't do anything. Again, it's what we mentioned in the last video where it's like there's a real problem with what characters know, when they know it, and what they choose to do with that information. As in, she keeps having characters find out stuff, and then it's like, ooh, now this person knows. Maybe Hera's gonna do something. It's like, no, she never does anything.
No.
Never does anything.
No. So they're here. And he goes, she goes, where is she? I know you've got her. She said, Persephone, I'm here to save you. And he says, who? Hades is a moron. Strike one.
No, they should turn around and see the TV with Persephone's boobs on.
Oh my god! He's some kind of sex pervert.
Where did you get this video from? He's using the fates to spy on Persephone when she's naked. He's such a creep.
Yeah, so I think that was for the panel requirement because there's no reason. She says, Persephone, I'm here to save you, and then he says, who? And then she says, Persephone. Like, again, 2 panels that you didn't need. You successfully brainwashed her. Persephone, you can leave this sex cult now. And again, it's not funny. And he chases after her saying, she and I are certainly not in a sex cult.
You know what would have been funny? If she saw his TV and had Persephone's boobs on it, he was like, I can explain. Yeah. That would have been funny.
Yeah, wait, it's not what it looks
like. It's not what it looks like.
Yeah, that definitely would have been funny. And so she barrels down the hallway. He says, just hold on a second. But he's not making any effort to go after her in that panel.
He's standing in the background going like this.
Yeah. And then he says, she was here earlier today. We ate omelets for brunch. And then she went to the city to run some errands. That's the last I heard from her.
Oh, that's what she was doing there in that creepy China ghost town?
Yeah.
Because that's news to me. Run some errands.
What errands?
She only came out with a handkerchief.
Yeah. And then Artemis, based on nothing, says lies.
Oh, dude, you know what I just realized? It's been like 20 chapters almost, and we still don't know what happened to that cake.
Where's the cake? Where's the cake, Rachel?
What was the cake?
Why did you show that cake is for something special?
Where did the cake go?
Where is it?
Where's the cake?
He says, I'm not lying. Have a look around. Knock yourself out. Imagine if she finds the drawer. Pulls
right?
it open.
She should have found the drawer. She should see the TV thing. And the TV thing first, and he'd be like, wait, I can explain. And then she opens the drawer and sees all the embarrassing stuff, and he's like, I can't explain that.
Yeah.
That would have been funnier.
Yeah. So she's like looking behind in his closet, in his wine cellar, and these guys, this panel is extremely blurry for some reason. I am having a difficult time.
I forgot that they show her like in his bathroom and stuff. And in the fridge. It just makes Artemis look stupid.
She seems extremely stupid, but that panel where they're all sitting at that table is so blurry. It's strange.
What is she pulling off the walls here?
That's his suit jacket. Oh. That's his closet. But look at how blurry that is.
Yeah.
Why is it so blurry?
It's really blurry. It's a very blurry panel. It's weird. It looks like it was duplicated.
Yeah, because they probably duplicated it for this one, but then they forgot to erase
Oh my god.
So he says, you try yourself out. And he offers her tea. And Eros is just telling what happened instead of telling him himself and talking about Apollo. Do you think she realized that Eros isn't saying anything about Apollo here, so she just made him not talk?
I think at this point she's writing the chapters. Like, my pet theory is that the reason the writing is so sloppy and the composition is so bad is because she's like procrastinating up until the last minute.
Yeah.
And she doesn't have like a, like an Excel sheet or like a Word document where she's planning the story out 10 chapters ahead or whatever like we do.
Yeah.
And like, again, I'm not trying to like say that we're like great storytellers here. It's just, and we don't have like 10 chapters completely planned, scripted, drawn. We don't have that big of a buffer. But what we do is we have like, okay, this is where I want the story to go. These are the next 10 chapters, bullet point, this is what's going to happen in this chapter, this chapter, this chapter. You keep track of who knows what and what they do with that information. And then when it comes to writing that chapter, you have your bullet point where it's like, this is the goal for this chapter to advance X plot.
Yeah.
And then when you get to that chapter, it's like, okay, this is what's going to happen in this chapter. I know that because I wrote this bullet point, and it's going to go directly to this chapter and this chapter and this chapter. And then it's pretty easy to go from there to write like a quick script. and then you can just go back and be like, oh, I want to have this happen too, but I didn't establish that, so let me just establish that here, and then put a note for my next chapter to have that happen because I've gotten a new idea now. Yeah. She doesn't do that. So, she's waiting until the last moment. She doesn't have any, like, big story notes or story planner or anything where she's planning in advance.
Yeah.
And then when it comes to, like, writing her chapter each week, she's probably sitting in front of a blank Word document with a cursor blinking at her. And she's like, you know what? I can't write when there's no visuals. Because she admitted herself in her Q&A that sometimes when she has writer's block, she just starts drawing. And then so she probably ends up defaulting a lot of the time, you know, under the gun to just drawing what happens and writing at the same time to save time. But ironically, I find that takes longer because you end up like, because it's really mentally difficult to think of how to draw something and what should happen in that scene at the same time.
Yeah.
Because it's one thing to write the story, it's another thing to visualize it. Those are two totally separate tasks, and they use two totally different parts of your brain. So if you're having to draw the next panel and figure out what the character's saying and figure out how that fits into the plot, you're going to end up with crappy composition. The story doesn't make any sense because you're writing it at the same time, and you're also multitasking. You're multitasking the story and the art, so both of them suffer as a result. And I think that's just how she approaches it. So at this point, she doesn't have any notes saying like, you know, this is what Eros knows at this point. So when Artemis shows up at his place, he's gonna do X, Y, Z, and he's gonna tell Artemis about Apollo because she's not doing this, she's not keeping track of this stuff.
Yeah.
Week to week.
So you think when she was writing this and she said, had Apollo say, just tell him what happened, she wasn't thinking, better not have Apollo, not Apollo, Eros saying, just tell him what happened. She's not thinking, Eros better keep his goddamn mouth shut. I don't want to talk about Apollo.
No, because if she had a reason for Eros not to talk about Apollo, you would think that she would cut to Eros and Eros being like, I can't say that, you know, I can't tell Artemis what happened with Apollo because that's Persephone's story to tell.
Right, but I'm saying Rachel herself is thinking, I don't want to put that into the story, so I'm just not going to make him say anything.
I think she forgot that he knows.
Oh, okay.
Because it was revealed in, like, episode 59.
Yeah.
And he never even hints. He just says, oh, Persephone's living a harder life than you realize. He never even hints, like, there's stuff happening to Persephone that you would never know, and I can't tell her because it's not my story to tell.
Yeah.
Like, it's not clearly stated that he knows and he's not telling for XYZ reason. He just shames Artemis, like, vaguely, you know?
Yeah.
Like, it's not, it's very, like, it's very shallow. Like, it's a very shallow reason. It's a very shallow way of telling the story.
Right. And so Hades says, please, I just want to get a picture of what's going on. I'm worried. And more panels, probably just to meet the panel requirement. And
yeah,
so,
Hades' eyes and then Artemis's eyes, and they're both saying nothing. And Artemis is making a really stupid expression here. Like, a lot of times when she does, like, close-ups and it's supposed to be, like, a silent, introspective panel, they're making a stupid face. It's not even, like, you know, it's not even, like, effective.
Yeah. So she passes him the note that she found. She overshot it a little bit, though, because he's reaching for nothing. He's reaching for air.
I know.
And so Hades, idiot strike 2, says, oh, so she's in the mortal realm with her mother. Dude, do you think all these people would have come to your house to look for her if she was in the mortal realm with her mother?
And do you think that would also explain why her phone service doesn't work?
Like, are you... Like, this just happened in your house.
What's up with his Tetris block fingers?
Did he eat something? Like, what's that thing that... What's the food that you eat that gives you the neurodegenerative disease where your fingers lock up? Is it mercury poisoning that does that to you? I mean...
Maybe.
Does he have mercury poisoning and he just can't think straight and his hands stop working? Because that is, like... Again, it's the same thing. Who? Persephone. She just said it a panel earlier. Oh, she's with her mom. No, she's not. Why are these people in your house if she's with her mom? Are you stupid, Hades? Like,
everyone's stupid now. Everyone's cursed with the disease, afflicted with the disease of stupidity.
Yeah, his IQ dropped by like 100 points. And it was only at 100 to begin with. So, yeah. So she says, Demeter came to the house wanting to see Persephone. But clearly, they're not together. Obviously, you friggin' idiot.
But in this panel, Artemis only has 4 fingers, too.
Oh, man. No, what is that?
That's supposed to be her pinky, resting on her palm.
Okay,
but she
so
only has
she's doing this, right?
Yeah, but she only has 4 fingers.
Oh, gosh.
Or she's doing this.
Yeah, Hades. She, you know.
But it looks like she only has 4 fingers.
And Eros is looking at her as she's explaining.
And he changes color completely.
But he's like looking at her as if to say like, oh, I should say, you know, did you tell Demeter? No, I don't have a death wish. I mean, if she's afraid of Demeter, why was she violating her rules all the time by bringing men over? And then she gets into the, I lost her, I had one job. But again, you don't see any of this at all in the first 10 chapters.
Mm-mm.
You would think she would be more careful after the first 10 chapters, which chronologically in the story only took place like 2 weeks ago. Right?
Not even 2 weeks ago, it's Thursday. That happened on like Saturday. No. Yeah, Saturday.
Okay. Yeah.
It was less than 2 weeks ago.
Less than 2 weeks ago. And she tells Eros, do not pat me. I didn't want to throw Persephone under the bus somehow. Maybe she just wanted a break again. Phone service disconnected. Did Hades tell them that her phone is disconnected?
I don't even think Artemis called her. I don't even think Artemis called her phone before she started breaking into people's houses.
Yeah, but did Hades tell these guys that the phone is out of service?
No.
Because he told himself that. He's like, why is her phone out of service? Does he tell these guys this?
No.
That's important information,
I know,
right?
it's stupid.
He just looks at his cup
He just
of
says,
tea.
she was here this morning, but she went to the city to do some errands.
Yeah, and he said, she told me she wasn't doing very well. What are you saying? She's always happy. And Eros says, she's always happy, right? You're a friend, you live together. Have you noticed anything? She's, I always thought she was fine.
And this is, like, so annoying, because it's, like, using this opportunity to crap all over Artemis and, like, shame her for being a bad friend. But it's like, the only reason Hades is interested in Persephone's well-being is because he wants to friggin' bang her.
Yeah.
And then the only reason Eros knows is because he was using his creepy powers and said, like, oh, I've noticed that you are not a virgin anymore. Like,
Yeah.
like neither of these guys, and now he's not saying anything about Apollo, so neither of these guys care about her for her own interests.
No.
Like, for her own best interests. So, like, why would you shame Artemis when it's like, you only care about Persephone because you think she's hot, and, like, you only know this, and you're still keeping your mouth shut because you're a self-centered jerk.
Yeah. So here we have him say, I tried to contact Persephone by calling her phone, and the number seems to be disconnected. That's a very wordy way of saying her phone is disconnected. I'm assuming it's the same for all of you. We didn't have any luck on that front either.
Why didn't Artemis open with that? If they both know her phone's disconnected, why didn't Artemis say, here's the note she left, but I tried calling her and her phone's disconnected? And Demeter showed up, so she's definitely not with her mother. Like, that was such a waste of panels. You could have condensed that into one panel.
That's something you would have understood if you had scripted it out first.
Yeah.
If you had thumbed it.
Yeah.
That's, again, it's like, it's the same thing where it's like, another thing that we do, and it's not something that everybody has to do, but something that we do that I find very beneficial is if you write the script and then you iterate on it, and when you read it again, you look at it critically and you say, what's a better way of delivering this information, right? How can I condense stuff, make it clearer, introduce stuff in a better way, do the pacing better? You iterate on it, right? So it's like, this is very first pass. The reason we're coming up with all these like criticisms and pointing all this stuff out is because we're basically iterating on this and talking about how it could have been better, right? The same thing happens if you have your own script. You write the rough draft, the first pass, and then you maybe take an hour or two or maybe a day in some cases.
And then you criticize the heck out of it. Or you find somebody else to criticize the heck out of it.
Yeah, and you look at it critically and you say, well, it doesn't make sense for the events to happen in this order. Change that dialogue, change this around. I think it would be better if we lead with this.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you do when you have a draft.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you have to have a draft. You can't just go in off the seat of your pants. It's so difficult. And you're making the work twice as hard for yourself.
Not even 100 times as hard.
Yeah, so...
I think, because scripting for me takes like an hour. If you have a plan, if you have goal-oriented writing where you've got your next 10 chapters planned out in terms of what you want to accomplish, if you've got a bullet point for all those chapters, from the bullet point to the script,
yeah.
I don't usually get writer's block when it comes to script, because you're only advancing, with a webtoon, you're only advancing the story like 400 words at a time.
Yeah.
With a book, it's much like more common to get writer's block because you're covering so much ground.
Yeah.
But with like a comic, it's like you're covering like what would be in a paragraph or a couple paragraphs in a book. That's one episode of your webcomic.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't find that I get writer's block if I have like again, goal-oriented plan, just a bullet point, in this chapter, Hades and Artemis join forces to go look for Persephone.
Yeah.
From there to the script, you have Artemis relaying what she knows, and then Hades tells her what he knows, and then Eros tells him about Apollo.
Yeah.
And then from there, you just type out your 400 words. It should only take like an hour or two maybe 3 if you're like struggling or you didn't get enough sleep last night or whatever. You take a long lunch break, you work out, you go out for a walk, you drink some coffee, you come back to it, or you get your trusty writing partner or your friend who's really good at critique and say, hey, this is what I come up with for the next chapter. Is this satisfying? Does this make sense to you? Do all the characters seem in character? And then your friend goes, hey, well, Eros in episode 59 found out about the assault. Why isn't he telling Artemis that?
Yeah.
And from there, you should be able to rewrite your script and then get into your thumbs. And the thumbs are actually more difficult than the script is.
So, I mean, that's the purpose of doing this stuff. And the more you read, the more it's like you're just making it up as you go along,
And it feels like there's a lot of padding to meet the panel count. Because she doesn't know what should happen next in the story. So stuff that should be taking 2-3 panels is taking like 10-15 panels because she's like, I don't know what's going to happen next. So instead of having this be efficient and happen at a snappy pace, I'm going to slow things down so it gives me time to figure out what's going to happen next.
Yeah, so Hades says I'll look for her in the underworld, and then Eros says we can cover Olympus in the mortal realm. I guess there's no police in the universe of Lore Olympus. Artemis looks distressed, and then that's the end. And it's strange because speaking of editors, she has editors and art assistants who she can ask
For criticism.
Yeah, so it might be the thing like you're talking about where she just procrastinates, and there's not even enough time left in the development because of how long it takes to get pieces where they need to be. I mean, you and I worked on a series together where each person had their own dedicated work, right? Like you would do the thumbnails, I would do the backgrounds while you were doing the thumbnails, and then we would draw and color the characters.
And the scripting we did together.
Yeah, scripting. Basically, it would be like you would type, and then I would pace, and
we would both lob back and forth what should happen next.
Yeah.
And we would type up the script. It would be done in an hour.
Yeah.
And, because it's 2 people working together, so you have that other pair of eyes from the beginning in the creative process. And then from there, I would do the thumbnails, and that is actually more time consuming than the scripting process. So that's why I'm saying, like, I would definitely segment thumbnailing and scripting.
Yeah.
If you're doing both at the same time, like, you're creating so much mental work for yourself. I've done thumbing and scripting at the same time. It's a lot easier to script first and then thumb.
For sure, it definitely is, and then you can get all the dialogue into your thumbs after you finalize the script. And I would say between the two of us, we never missed a weekly upload.
And we were putting out the same, if not more, panels on a weekly basis as Lore Olympus.
Yeah.
For that series where we were working on it together.
And in many cases, we were actually done early because I would have time after doing that one to do another chapter of a completely different series and also put that out on a weekly schedule. So it was like, you do that, you experience doing that, and then you see this and you're like, no, what are you doing? Like, where's your script? Where's your thumbs? How come you're not using the resources that you have, right?
Why don't you have character design sheets?
Yeah.
Like, palettes that you can just sample over and over again.
There's so many ways to make the work easier for yourself, and that's just a general, like, piece of advice for anybody who wants to do their own webtoon. Script, iterate, do your thumbs and sketches and your roughs, and have, like, a set of dedicated resources, like either backgrounds that you can use over and over again, or colors that you can reference over and over again.
I think if you aren't interested in using 3D assets, composites can help a lot.
Yeah.
Speed up the process.
Yeah. So then we get into chapter 118, and this one has Psyche talking with Hades.
I don't know why we just suddenly cut to Psyche's perspective.
It's because this is the second season now, right? And so it's like I don't know, like when you see a TV show, like the pilot episode of a TV show in the second season, you're like, remember this character? What about that guy? Hey, how's this guy doing? Oh, look at him. I think they do that in, like, Lost, where they show what every character is doing at the beginning of a new season. And it's really just, like, fan service. Hades is in the kitchen, putting his hands into a deep fryer.
I guess Artemis and Eros are looking at a map of the realms?
Yeah. So it's a flat Earth, I guess.
Okay, I guess.
Yeah.
That's a really bad map, because it doesn't even show you, like, the cities.
No.
Like, the quadrants don't make any sense, because it's like from 3/4 view angle. Like, why would you use a planar grid on a 3/4 view? On a disc in 3/4 view? That doesn't make any sense at all.
You have no sense of distance.
No.
And location.
Why? Like, the planar view is for, like, a top-down.
Yeah.
and this is like 3/4 view. It's really stupid, in other words.
Well, if she did that, she would have to draw 3 maps.
No. What you could do is have like 1 circle, 1 circle, 1 circle. Plainer view. Not hard.
But you want big maps, like you want a big circle. So I mean, that would have to be like this, like instead of being like, that big, the map would then have to be like that big to show the 3 circles where you can identify between.
Well, the map is already big. Why not just make it like a long scroll instead of a square? It would be rectangular.
She was in a hurry, okay? She's like, okay.
But I thought of that in 1 second.
Yeah, but I mean, you don't know what it's like to have so much pressure on with your 5 assistants and your copy editor.
Oh my gosh.
Not helping you, not giving you any feedback for anything, and saying, why did you do that?
Oh my god.
You don't know what it's like. So Psyche goes to the kitchen where he's got his hands in the deep fryer, and she offers to help him fry his hands.
Yeah.
And he says, I won't say no, because there's no faucet. If that's supposed to be a sink where he's doing dishes.
He's got the Kim Kardashian sink.
Yeah. And so basically they recall all the way back to when he chased Aphrodite in the parking lot so many episodes ago.
And Ampolis had straight hair in that scene.
Yeah. And that was only a few days ago, and he doesn't remember that.
Yeah.
So Hades is an idiot. Strike 3. Unfortunately, he's not out. He's got so many more strikes to go. And she says, "Do not worry. I find Aphrodite has that effect on others." And then they stop talking about Aphrodite like instantly, and then he goes, "So has he noticed yet?" Talking about Eros, right? That you're immortal. I didn't mean to catch you off guard. It's just odd that nobody else has noticed. I mean, it's funny. It's odd that you haven't noticed that there's a huge influx of souls
into Tartarus.
You haven't noticed that there's something weird going on with Persephone. I find that odd, Hades. I find that odd.
But why would you bring this plot up now if it's not going to be resolved?
Well, because I bet you if you go to the comments, you're going to have people talking about how much they love Eros and Psyche. Because it's fan service.
I think it's because Rachel didn't know what she should have happen next in season 2, so she was like, let me just give this some lip service and do the same thing that we were talking about earlier, where it's like, let me give this some screen time, but not move it forward at all. Just remind people that it exists.
Yeah.
Because it's not like this conversation with Hades changes anything. It's not like it adds anything to the Eros and Psyche subplot.
No.
It's not like he gives her advice and she takes it, and then that's what leads to Eros realizing that it's Psyche.
Eros still doesn't notice. And, she was also there with Apollo. How come she didn't sneak into the kitchen and say, by the way, Hades, Apollo?
Yeah.
Psyche
does nothing. She's a pointless character.
Yeah,
she doesn't change the story at all.
I'm starting to think Eros is never going to see me. Don't lose hope. The love gods are funny in that way.
But nobody noticed that she's immortal. Not just Aphrodite and Eros.
Yeah.
Nobody.
No. That's why he's saying I find it odd that nobody's noticed yet.
I mean, it's not only does she not script it, she doesn't even realize that one panel 3 panels later directly contradicts what she just said 2 panels ago.
How did Hades notice?
Exactly.
Did she smell different?
Exactly.
I mean, it would be one thing. She's from the mortal realm, and the mortal realm is like ancient technology.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't really show Eros teaching her how to use modern technology.
No.
He taught her how to write
mm-hmm.
and read, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't show him teaching her how to like drive a car
mm-hmm.
or work a computer or something like that. And that would be a big tell that this is actually Psyche in
mm-hmm.
disguise, right?
But she didn't think about any of that.
No, and that would have been more interesting too if she like Eros is like, because I mean, what does she even do all day? Does she hang out in their house with them?
I think she's like Aphrodite's assistant.
Okay, and so Eros is like, dude, how come your assistant doesn't know how to work a coffee machine?
Exactly.
How come your assistant gets so like starstruck when she sees cars? Because if you took somebody from ancient Greece and you put them in New York City, like 2020 New York City,
they would have a mental breakdown.
Yeah, they'd be like, what is going on here?
Yeah.
What is that thing, pointing at a car? A cheeseburger? Mm-hmm. What is this?
Mm-hmm.
Like it would be totally crazy for them.
Mm-hmm.
So, and she's just saying, I don't think Eros is ever going to notice it's me. Not like, you guys have all this technology, how come you're not helping the mortals more? Yeah. You guys have all this stuff, and I've been toiling, You know, like, I was going to be forced to marry a guy who I didn't want to marry. There's so many other women who have to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you guys use your powers and your technology in this society where women are actually equal? I say that in air quotes because technically they are, but I mean, in this universe, not really, for some reason.
Here's the big question. If all the marriages in ancient Greece were arranged and coerced, how come Hera's in charge of doing that?
I mean, even when they show her at her office later, she's just looking at the board. Like, she's just like, oh yeah, marriage is blessed, not blessed. You know, I mean, she shouldn't even have a job anymore because it's like, it's arranged.
No, it's arranged, but like, why is the female god Hera okay with that? Like, it doesn't make any sense.
Who knows what's going on with Hera because she won't even leave Zeus.
I know!
So, like, maybe she thinks it's
I mean, but that's what I'm saying, like, the whole, what you were just saying about Psyche and Eros, it's because the story is very shallow.
Yeah.
It's because Rachel didn't think about, and, like, those aspects at all. The actually interesting, like, deep aspects, she didn't think about that at all. That's why it's not in the story.
No.
And it would be too much effort to put in the story at this late stage in the game.
Yeah.
It's too much effort to even advance the plot line that they have going at this stage in the game.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. Like, yeah, what you're saying is valid and it's really interesting, and in a better story we would have gotten that, but this is Lore Olympus, and we don't even know how Hades can tell that she's immortal and no one else can.
Oh.
And like why he says like, oh, the love gods are funny that way. It's like, dude, you just said nobody noticed.
Yeah.
Artemis didn't notice either. She's not a love god.
Insightful about everyone else but themselves. Except he's not insightful about anybody. Eros isn't.
No.
I mean,
yeah, I know. I know.
and he's not insightful about Hades having a crush on Persephone at all. In fact, Hades isn't acting like he has a crush on Persephone at all here. Like, all the stuff about internal moaning faded away.
It's because after he had the video showing the goods, he got everything he needed, A, and B, he was really mad at Persephone for not telling him about that, so he's not even distressed that she's missing.
They should have used a pile. They should have showed, like, when they come in, they should have showed a pile of discarded tissues.
It's really weird. It's really weird that Artemis is more concerned about Persephone missing at this point than Hades is.
Yeah. Hades is like...
He waits until the next day when he goes to the office and he can get Hecate to do all the dirty work for him to say, hey, Persephone's missing. Meanwhile, Artemis and Eros and Ampullus are looking for her all night. Thursday night. Presumably Hades just went to bed. And then woke up the next morning, went to work and said, hey, Hecate, Persephone's missing. Help me look for her.
Well...
On the clock.
Also, I mean, Hades took a guy's eyeball out.
Yeah.
For Persephone.
Yeah.
Where'd that energy go?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
he's a totally different character at this point.
Then you got this really creepy panel of Eros.
Eros in his hands.
Yeah,
Yahweh hands.
His hands is one thing, but the one after that is even like...
Oh, yeah. That panel is so weird.
It's very creepy.
It's horrible.
Yeah.
What's wrong with his ear? What's wrong with his ear?
He looks like his proportions are like oddly realistic in that panel, and he's got this eerie underlighting and shineless eyes.
It's just so creepy.
And this strange little smirk on his face. Wipe that smile off your face, you know. And he goes, "Thanks for coming with me, or us." Why was Ampullus with him when he went to Persephone's house?
She's just always with him.
What were they even doing? They were flying. But why?
I don't know. It's really weird. It's really weird because Persephone was angry in that moment, and Ares said, I was summoned by your anger, but Ares didn't come to her rescue there. No. Eros did, but Eros only came before because she was about to confess her crush to Hades.
Yeah.
So how did he come in that moment and not Ares?
I don't know. Like, that's the question. That's on the growing list of questions.
The growing list of questions.
It's growing like a tumor.
This is like Lost.
Oh,
this is coming like Lost.
Yeah. So I guess what Hades meant was, you know, about love gods and stuff, is that Eros, he can tell when other people love people, but for some reason he can't tell that Psyche loves him.
Yeah, but the first comment was in regards to her being mortal.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make any sense in the context of the conversation.
No. Again, it's like the discussion, you know, the argument with Demeter and Persephone all over again. It's like, what's the through line? I don't understand. You're just saying words right now.
Yeah, it's word salad.
Yeah. And this is also word salad. So Eros says, sorry, I feel like I'm always monopolizing your time. And she says, you should be sorry. You're terrible. You are terrible. You know about Apollo and you didn't say anything.
No, you're terrible. You're terrible. Persephone's missing, possibly kidnapped by Apollo, because that was the last time you saw her and he was attacking her and you had to save her. And instead of like taking it seriously and trying to find her, you're just giggling with Ampullus.
Yeah. And so she's still looking at the map, but the map has shrunk in size now.
But why, if they have smartphones, why does she have to use a paper map?
Something for her to look at. I don't know. How else was she supposed to show that they were looking at the 3 realms? Show it on their smartphones?
She could have shown it on their smartphones.
No. You would have needed another panel to do that.
But then it would have been better than having the silent panels where nobody says anything.
She didn't script it, obviously. Otherwise, she would put that into the script.
I know.
So, Artemis flops down.
You know what I wonder? I wonder if the silent panels are there from the beginning, or if she, like, does everything, like, thumbs everything out, and then she gets to the end, and she's like, oh god, I didn't meet my panel quota, and then adds the silent panels in between.
I think she adds the silent panels in between because either they are repastes, like copy-paste, which are easy, low-effort panels to do, or they look totally different. Case in point, something she comes back to later. Later, yeah.
When she gets to the end, she goes, oh, I didn't meet my panel?
Yeah. I think so, because, like I said, either they're copy-pastes, which she can just do immediately after, noticing, like, okay, I'll copy-paste this panel, I'll copy-paste that panel, or she just does them, like, on a new canvas and plonks them in.
No, but, like, she doesn't actually draw, like, she doesn't actually color her comic anymore.
Yeah.
She just does the sketches. So, this sketch doesn't look anything like the previous sketch.
No.
So you think she went back and added this sketch after she finished all of the sketches.
Yeah.
And then that was another indication that she doesn't have a script, because if you had a script, you would know exactly what happens in each panel, and you wouldn't be like, oh god, I haven't met my panel requirement yet.
Yeah. And then you also have a flashback to 1 drink and then we can go, right? Promise. And then a copy-pasted panel. I thought we weren't allowed to have men in the house. And they don't really show her reaction to that. Again, when we used to see, like, thoughts in the heads of characters all the time.
Yeah.
Just previously, we saw Zeus's thoughts. We're not getting any thoughts from Artemis right now. So then you that shot of Persephone.
No, because if she thought, like, why would you have a flashback to Persephone saying we're not allowed to have any men in the house, right? Unless you thought that the reason Persephone left is because of a guy that you let into the house.
Again, we don't have any of her thoughts going, like, this is my
like,
fault.
Is she
like,
suspecting Apollo?
We would know if we had her thoughts, but we don't have her thoughts.
Or you could have gone directly to the flashback in, like, episode, like, 50-something, 40-something, where Persephone says, you know something about your brother.
Yeah.
And then she's like, maybe if I'd listened to her that time, I would know why she ran away.
Yeah, I mean, Artemis is too stupid to put 2 and 2 together. She can't read social cues, so whenever Apollo's around and Persephone clearly doesn't want to be there, and she looks very uncomfortable and agitated, Artemis just doesn't know. She's like, like, this is a total normal way
I wish
for
you and
people.
my brother would get along better.
Yeah, like, it would be like if you saw somebody, like, if we shot the videos, and I was all the way over here, and, like...
Just really quiet every time I talk, and then, like, you were always looking at me for approval.
Yeah.
And, like, yeah.
You know, obviously there's something going on here, some sort of negativity. Artemis just, she can't see that. She can't read body language. She doesn't know. She can't tell. And so then they ask her if she's okay because she hasn't spoken since they left, but I mean, that's not really an indication for concern. And so she goes back to Persephone because all anybody cares about is Persephone, and all they talk about is Persephone.
I'd be more concerned about the fact that Artemis apparently is in the void.
Yeah. So she says, is Persephone really unhappy? And then instead of saying that thing about Apollo, Eros says, I know you've been living on your own for years. It was really nice of you to take Persephone in.
What's he doing with his hand?
He's showing his passport.
Oh.
But we get a shot of the guy going like this for the passport. You don't need that panel. But I think this is a little bit more of your help than you realize.
Oh my god, Apis Eros.
Yeah, we get, he devolves a little bit into some kind of
Cro-Magnon
specimen here. I don't know if he's thinking about Apollo there, but he gets really, like, stern looking all
I
of a sudden.
know.
And then she says, I wanted to give her space, you know? She spent so much time having her days planned out. I thought it would be a welcome change. But that's, like, so at odds with how she was acting at the beginning of the comic, where she was trying to control what Persephone could and couldn't do. So they didn't even have a discussion between them where Persephone said, look, I would appreciate it if you gave me some space.
Or Artemis wasn't characterized as, like, the cool aunt.
No.
She wasn't like, hey, I saw how your mom was treating you in the mortal realm, so I don't want to impose any rules on you. The only rule is don't bring strange guys into the house, or no guys allowed after 6 p.m.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And, like, you know, I hope we can be friends, and I trust you to make good decisions for the benefit of TGOEM or whatever.
Yeah.
But there was no conversation like that between her and Persephone, ever. And they never showed Artemis as being, like, the cool aunt. Like, Persephone could have even said at the party when she was giving her that dress, she'd be like, isn't this kind of against the TGOEM? And then Artemis is like, we don't have to follow the letter of the rules as long as we're following the spirit. You
Right.
know? We can wear whatever we want as long as we don't, like, you know, date any guys or whatever.
Yeah. And so she says, I thought it would be a welcome change. And then you get this panel of her looking off into the distance, and then she suddenly remembers that Demeter's coming back tomorrow. What am I going to do? And it's just 3 of the same panel, slightly altered. I mean, how did she forget? Why not just have her, like, sigh and then say, what, at any rate, what difference does it make because Demeter's coming back tomorrow,
I know.
Right? It's like she suddenly remembers, and they all look shocked. And she goes, Demeter's going to kill me, resurrect me, and then Hestia is going to kill me. Again,
It's just to pad out the episode.
And then Eros, you have this really creepy panel, again, underlining with his weird little eye in the mirror.
Corner.
Yeah, we don't know if Persephone is missing per se. The implication being she's dead.
Yeah.
Right?
No, the implication being, like, nobody else knows that she's missing either. You know?
Exactly. And so maybe she wanted some downtime? What are you talking about, dude? What does that mean? Maybe she wanted some downtime. In the context of something missing.
how naive she is.
Yeah.
You know how naive she is, and you know how skeezy the underworld is.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you be concerned for that alone?
Yeah.
And the fact that she's already been victimized. You already know that she's been attacked, Eros. Why aren't you scared that that's going to happen again?
Yeah.
Like, it's so stupid.
It is really stupid. And then we cut to the pawn shop.
Like,
because-
if you disappeared for an entire night, which is totally out of character for you,
Yeah.
and your phone was disconnected, I wouldn't be like, maybe Pyrrhic wanted some downtime.
No.
I'd be like, no! I'm gonna call the cops! Pyrrhic is missing! She usually comes home. She's cats to feed. She has responsibilities. She wouldn't just leave them to go have some downtime with her phone disconnected.
Especially because it's like she's told a lie about why she went missing. It would be like if I went missing, but I wrote, I'm gonna go hang out with my parents, you know, see you later. You see the note, and then my parents come over.
Yeah.
And you're like, what the F is going on here? Like, honestly, you would tell, probably as soon as my mom walked through the door, you'd be like, dude, your daughter's not here.
Yeah, and
I
I'd
don't
be
know where
like,
she is.
maybe somebody forced her to write this note under duress.
Exactly.
That's what I would think.
Exactly.
And they kidnapped her.
Yeah, so enlist the help of Demeter, because it's like, what could Demeter actually do to you?
Nothing.
What could she, I mean, we saw what she did to Zeus.
Did nothing.
Exactly, what could she actually do to you? So Eros, idiot that he is, why don't we give it a few days before sending in the cavalry? Do you know how missing persons cases work, dude?
They don't have police in this universe, so there are no missing persons cases.
And for some reason, he's on the completely other side of the car now, and she, like, leans over to that side.
She's leaning outside of the car to talk to him.
No, he's not driving anymore. Because look at the window is right there.
Oh, yeah.
He's
What
in
the
the
heck?
passenger seat all of a sudden.
Oh, my gosh. Why didn't the assistant just say, hey, Rachel, why don't you flip this panel? This doesn't make any sense.
The assistant's trying to sabotage her.
Like, this is something that you would easily catch with, like, a proofread. And he
Yeah.
looks like a total gonk in that panel, too. He looks so weird.
He looks like LeFou.
I know.
Beauty and the Beast.
What's up with this nose-lip situation? It's one big tumorous mass.
He's like,
What the heck?
yeah. And she goes, what am I going to tell... But what want am I? But what want am I gonna tell
Oh my
Demeter?
god!
Then? What want are you gonna tell Demeter? Then? Are you okay, Artie? Are you having a stroke on us?
She's
Artie?
having a stroke.
She's stroking out. So while he's driving and he's in the passenger seat still, he goes, if Eros is over there, then who's driving the car? She makes a big eyeball at him again, and then the car crashes and they all die.
Yeah, that's what those sparks are. The
It's
car
blood.
crash.
It's blood spraying into the air, and he says, I have an idea. And the idea is really stupid. So Zeus is at the bar. I still can't believe all that stuff happened right under my nose. I still can't believe he's stuck on it, and he repeated the exact same
One day
line.
later.
Yeah.
This is Thursday night, and they told him what happened Wednesday night.
No.
One day later.
If you wanted to show him being upset about it, you could have Thetis sending him, like, extra reminders.
Or more evidence.
Yeah, more evidence, or she puts on his calendar meeting with Hades, and he's like, why'd you do that? I told you I didn't want to meet with Hades. And then he's like, I must look like the biggest incompetent idiot right now. Who does Demeter think she is, hiding all that stuff from me? Am I so unapproachable? Again, I don't like Zeus. I don't care about him as a person.
They keep either coloring his tie white or like the same color as his skin in these panels.
Oh, I didn't even know he was wearing a tie. I thought he just had the open shirt.
I thought so too, but no, he's wearing a tie. The person who was drawing it thought he had an open shirt too.
Yeah.
The assistant didn't realize he was wearing a tie.
And so he says, all I did was burn Demeter's crops to the ground for refusing to hide my lover. No biggie. I mean, he's a douche. I don't like him. No respect. And why was Thetis on my case about talking to my brother about this? This is another thing she does all the time. Between Hades and Zeus, they go, why is her phone disconnected? I wonder what else she's hiding from me. Why didn't she tell me that we've met before? Why was Thetis doing this? Why was Hera, so concerned about Apollo? Why was that? They just think about it.
But they don't do anything to resolve those questions.
It's like if you're hungry and you're sitting in your house and you go, why am I hungry? You're hungry because you haven't eaten. Get up off the sofa and
go make
eat.
some food instead of making food or cooking or ordering out. You're just like, why am I hungry?
And then 3 hours later, I can't believe I'm so hungry. Just eat, damn it! And it's like, just talk to people. You have phones. Just, oh my gosh, it's so odd. So then, he's
still thinking about it.
Yeah.
He's still thinking the same thought after all that time driving back from the bar to his house.
It's not as if Hades is so much more capable than I am. He is completely checked out of work since he discovered Persephone existed.
And that should be a cause of concern. You should be thinking, wait, what if he's in on this?
Exactly. So then Hades texts him, hey, drinks, and then Hades says, no, Zeus says can't, busy.
No, I think Zeus said drinks. That's why he was at the bar.
No, it had to have been Hades because that's the orientation of the
I know, I think that's a mistake though. I think that's a mistake because I think Zeus went to the bar and he wanted to meet Hades there, but when Hades said I can't, he went by himself anyway. Because Hades wasn't at the bar, and this is at the same time that Hades is looking for Persephone. Actually, this is after Artemis, Eros, and Amplius have left, so Hades is presumably just doing his nighttime routine before going to bed.
So Zeus says if this is true, Persephone will have to answer for this, and then he just goes straight to the bar.
I guess. No, that was Wednesday night. Thursday night, he tries to talk to Hades at the bar, and then Hades says, I can't go to get drinks with you, I'm busy. I think this is a mistake, because Hades doesn't usually want to go drinking with Zeus.
Yeah.
He gets really annoyed every time Zeus shows up.
Yeah.
So I think Zeus tried to ask Hades for drinks, presumably to clear this up, and then he went to the bar by himself when Hades said no, or he went to the bar anyway after it was seen, and then Hades just now texted back, can't, busy. But again, I'm having to do all this psychic work to figure out what's going on here.
So he said that it was an accusation, right? Did Minthi, Thetis, and Thanatos provide him with the actual report?
No, he has to go to Helios to get the report. Remember, he goes down to the mortal realm to investigate. They tell him about the tree and the village, and then he says that freaky tree is there where they said it would be, but I don't have first-hand evidence. Then Apollo bumps into him and says, hey, let's go to Helios, and that's where he gets the report from.
Yeah.
So he has no concrete evidence right now. It's in the investigation phase.
Well, why didn't they give him the report that they found that told them that information in the first place?
Because Thanatos used the report as an impetus to go talk to Helios. The better question is, how come Thanatos, Minthi, and Thetis didn't tell him, we got it from Helios, you should go talk to him too? Why did Apollo have to chance upon him in the middle of the mortal realm and be like, hey, did you talk to Helios?
No, first he chances upon Artemis.
Yeah.
Then Apollo interrupts that.
By chance.
Yeah.
Apollo just happened to be in the same time in the same place.
Yeah.
Why was Apollo even there in the first place?
Because he wanted to talk to Zeus about getting a marriage with Persephone.
No, he just ran into Zeus and Artemis. He's like, Artemis, why are you? And then Artemis is like, I need to get out of here. And then he's like, go for it. It's all a bunch of coincidences. But I don't know why Thanatos, Thetis, and Minthi didn't tell him, we got it from Helios, you should go talk to him too.
Yeah.
Because they just told him without any evidence. Zeus should have been like, where's your evidence?
Yeah.
They should be like, we got it from Helios.
Yeah.
And there's also this big tree there. It's so weird that Zeus goes to the tree and then he's like, but I still don't have any evidence. Then Apollo's like, maybe we should go talk to Helios.
That is really weird.
Why didn't Thanatos tell him?
Yeah, I know.
It's so stupid.
Ah, God.
Because otherwise Zeus should be like, you're wasting my time with these baseless accusations.
Right. Yeah, just bad. So he goes home, he tries to talk to his daughter. His daughter tells him to F off. And then he goes, no respect, again. And he goes, maybe I should talk to Hera. But then Hera's on the phone, and she goes, of course I'm not going to tell Zeus. He's an arrogant buffoon who overreacts at the drop of a hat. And then we've got a really gonky panel of Zeus pressed against the wall. He looks like a refrigerator.
He looks like an apis.
Yeah, he looks like an ape. And then he repeats no respect, and then that brings us to episode 100.
Again, nothing happens in that episode.
No, now we have a Hera-centric chapter.
For no reason. Just interrupting the story.
Again, it's like the beginning of the new season. At the beginning of the last one was Psyche. Now it's Hera. Hey, remember Hera?
Yeah.
Yeah, fan
It's
favorite.
like, again, it's like Rachel's like, oh, I don't know what to do next, so let me just, like, interrupt the Persephone is missing arc with a bunch of irrelevant tangent. Once I was a goddess made from starlight and sweetest earth, limitless and blessed with purpose, but now I'm not sure what I'm supposed to be. I miss the earth, I miss my friends, and most of all, I miss my mother. I feel as though I traded them all to be your golden trader. But it's like, why would you have this Hera-centric chapter where she's, like, resentful of Zeus if it goes nowhere? It's not like they break up at the end of this chapter.
No.
Like, it's just stupid.
And these visuals are strange.
Yeah.
Tiny feet in that chair. Feet floating off the ground.
Where are Zeus's hands even coming from?
Where's his other hand?
Where's his other arm? Exactly.
Where's the floor?
And then, like, Hera's, they've all got scars, I guess, from the fight with the Titans. But Hera's are, like, right around her midsection, which is where you would see, like, pregnancy stretch marks. I don't know if that was intentional or not.
Probably was.
And then they keep drawing Zeus's tie as his chest.
Yeah.
And Hera is just a total jerk. Do I look like I know where your socks are? I thought you could use one of your little visions. I've got a vision for you. And then she, like, gives him the finger.
When did that interaction take place?
It's just, like, an out of time, out of place interaction. Like, it's no specific time, no specific date. It's just, like, a random interaction between her and Zeus to typify their relationship. It's really weird. It's just completely out of the canon.
Oh, okay. So,
Because this is still Thursday night.
Yeah, we cut back to Artemis's house.
We show the wolf, which they still never explain where the wolf came from.
Yeah. We get a weird panel of Eros and Artemis looking over the phone nervously, because their plan is to call Hera.
But here's the question. If she can use her visions to find Zeus's lost socks, how come she can't use her vision to find Persephone? I thought that's what this chapter was leading up to.
But no.
No, like, the only thing that happens in this chapter is that she becomes Persephone and goes to lunch with Demeter. But I thought they were building up the fact that she can find people using visions, and then they were going to use Hera. That's why they were calling Hera to use her to find Persephone. I still don't know what the gods' powers are, what they can and can't do. Like, how come Hera's the only person who can impersonate other people?
I don't know.
Artemis is whining about calling Hera, and it's all, like, fluff. It's all padding. Nothing happens. She just ends up calling her.
I mean, the thing that annoys me, though, is Eros says, Artemis, I do not have to help you. There's a list about 100 things that I could be doing right now that are preferable to this, i.e. finding Persephone. And then, again, just poop on Artemis. That's what all this is. Just take a dump on Artemis. She sucks. I hate Artemis.
I mean, she does suck, but, like...
Eros is no better.
He's sitting on information that Persephone was last seen being attacked by her rapist, so...
Yeah. So then they call Hera together, and she's posing against the wall for some reason when they call her.
I don't know what she's doing, trying to pop her back? Like, what's going on here?
Yeah. And she goes, royalty speaking, will you whisper in my presence? And so then they introduce themselves, and she looks disappointed. Zeus isn't here. He's been at his office all day. Why would you think they're calling for Zeus?
Zeus just came home, though. No, Zeus comes home while she's talking.
At the end of this,
okay.
Yeah, at the end of this exchange. Actually, we want to talk to you, but again, why would they be calling Zeus? And she goes, what would we possibly have to talk about? Well, Hera, your majesty, we need your help. And she says no without even knowing what they need help for. And then they say it's about Persephone, and then her tune totally changes.
Why does she care about Persephone, but she doesn't care about her own grandson? Like, she really likes Ares, so why doesn't she care about his son? Why is she, like, such a dick in this chapter?
She seems like a totally different person. She's acting, like, so out of character.
She's such a jerk to Artemis and Eros, but when Persephone's mentioned, she's like, oh no, not my favorite character, because the whole universe spins around Persephone. If Persephone goes missing, then I can't have Hades be set up with her.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
It's ridiculous.
It's weird writing. Obviously, it's just coming from a place of like the author wants her to be concerned.
She just wanted conflict instead of having Hera immediately agree to help them because that would take less panels.
Yeah, exactly. And he says, before we go on, please don't tell anyone, mainly Zeus.
Why?
So that she can say, of course I'm not going to tell Zeus.
But why?
Because that's what she said at the end of the last chapter. He's an arrogant buffoon who overreacts at the drop of a hat. You had to say, don't tell Zeus, so that she could say that line.
But why wouldn't they? Why would they not want to tell Zeus?
No, because later Artemis even says, I think Zeus knows something. She's talking to somebody. I think she's talking to Eros, and she says, I think Zeus knows something. And Eros says, why would Zeus knowing be, like, a problem? I'm
But
pretty
they
sure...
don't even know about the Act of Wrath either!
No, I'm pretty sure that's what he says later. Like, let me see if I can find it. It's a later chapter where Zeus is talking to Artemis, and then she goes, I think Zeus knows. And he goes, why is that wrong?
Oh,
But here
no!
he's saying, don't tell Zeus. Let me double check just to be sure.
Oh,
here.
no!
Purple guys, I hate them. Oh, my eyes are like bleeding. Okay, so he gets a phone call, right?
Yeah.
Artemis, did you find out anything? No, I messed up. Zeus saw me. I think he knows. Look, you don't know that for sure. Besides, why would you looking for Persephone raise any red flags for Zeus?
Ah!
Don't tell Zeus.
What episode is this?
This is episode 126.
Oh my god! This is episode 119! And it's the same day! It's like the same day! It's the next morning!
He reverted to monkey. That's why he says that stupid monkey.
He says that because he forgot that the night before, he was telling Hera not to tell Zeus.
Yeah. Oh my god.
My god!
I remembered that because I'm like, no, she tells somebody later, Zeus saw me, and Eros says, why would you looking for Persephone raise any red flags for Zeus?
But what red flags are they talking about?
But why not tell Zeus?
Why not tell Zeus?
And then he's saying, you can tell Zeus.
No, but what red flags? Like, it's not like they know about the Act of Wrath. They don't know about the Act of Wrath. So
No.
why does Zeus not need to know?
I don't know, but this directly contradicts that.
What
Okay?
the heck?
This is a problem. This is like wrong.
What?
There's something wrong with this Eros guy. There's something wrong with him.
Oh my god.
Yeah, so getting back to episode 119.
Then Hera agrees because it's Persephone. So this is the next day, so this is Friday. She agrees. She's turning into Persephone to deceive Demeter and make her think that her daughter isn't missing. And then that's the end of the chapter.
Yeah, she shows up and says Artemis's place is a dump.
Yeah. And then episode 120 starts off with Hera as Persephone saying, pretty impressive. You need to change your outfit. And then it's a little opulent for her, but not really, because she dresses like this all the time later on in the comic.
Yeah.
Later on in the comic, when she becomes like Hades' main squeeze, she dresses like that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, they forgot to color her buttons. There's a skin color in one panel.
Yeah, that's... We'll talk about a nip slip.
I know, right? Why is the DPI in that Eros panel
That's
so
what I was
low
wondering.
when it's not a copy-paste of anything?
It's odd.
It's really
very
weird.
odd, yeah.
Is it like a copy-paste from a previous chapter?
It could be.
But anyway, so then she changes into the Persephone outfit and goes to lunch with Demeter, and it's supposed to be like really funny that she's like acting very diva-y, but I don't remember Hera acting like that. Like her main characteristic being that she's like a bratty diva.
No. And also she knows Persephone. She knows how Persephone acts.
Yeah, they've had dinner together, and then she like had that creepy exchange with her. She's like, "Did you stop aging yet?"
Yeah, and also, like, Eros and Artemis don't know what Persephone studies for comedy, but later he gets her, like, word jumbles because she's a nerd when she's recovering at Hades' house. So
yeah, but they don't know what she studies. They just stereotype her as a nerd, probably because she's the only one who's going to college.
I guess so. So,
But they also forgot to color her belt in this scene, too.
Yeah.
It's skin color.
And so she's acting very stilted and awkward for comedy. And she's wearing, it looks like she's wearing a different dress when they actually get to the place.
Yeah, she's wearing a pink dress all of a sudden.
Yeah. And then she talks about gin because Hera is an alcoholic. And Demeter's like, come again, you know?
Yeah.
And then she talks about the juniper berry exports, and then she goes, oh, I love that you're taking an interest in the business side of things, and, you know, more diva stuff.
I hope for your sake that's not tap water. Persephone, what's gotten into you? But Persephone was really bratty in the mortal realm, too.
Exactly. And so then Demeter alludes to the act of wrath, and she goes, are you stressed? Oh, no, you're not feeling like you did before the accident, right? She refers to the act of wrath as the accident.
Mm-hmm.
And then Hera goes, ding, accident. You know, what's this about an accident? She goes, if you're feeling like before, let me know. She goes, don't worry, I'll take a little nap if I feel that way again. And then Demeter goes, a nap? And then we have this odd panel.
That's so weird. It looks like a meme.
Yeah, this odd panel. I wonder if it is a meme that she's referencing. I'm glad you're not beating yourself up anymore. I never saw her beat herself up.
She never beat herself up.
At all.
Ever. The background's really weird in this next panel, too.
Yeah, and, you know, for somebody who helped hide, you know, cover up the act of wrath, Demeter is like, oh, glad you're not feeling that way again.
Yeah, Demeter's not treating it seriously either.
No, she's acting like, have you started your period? Okay, I've got a pad.
Or like you have like
you
no
know,
like she gets really bad migraines. Like,
yeah.
Are you feeling like that way again? Like,
yeah.
I can give you some like medication if
yeah.
you are.
Are you having the aura?
Yeah.
You know, from a migraine
yeah.
attack incoming or something? And so, she goes, now you can get me all caught up on your grades and school. Hey, Persephone actually said my period's supposed to be due about this time earlier in the story. Speaking of periods. But we never actually see her get her period.
I mean, I guess it doesn't matter.
I guess it doesn't, but again, it's like, when was my last period? It's not. We didn't even have a moment of her going, like, to the bathroom or something, and then she comes out being like, you know, and then she's like, sorry, I'm a little crampy today or something. So you alleviate the stress of being pregnant and all that stuff, right?
I put that in the plot summary or the plot chart, the pregnancy scare, because it comes and goes, and, like, there was no point in introducing it. There's 0 point. It wasn't like it was introduced. Like, okay, you can introduce and clear a plot, like a really short arc.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. Like, for example, if the pregnancy scare, like, contributed to her character, if it had contributed to the story in some greater way, where it was, like, emblematic of the stress that the attack, Apollo's attack gave her, or, like, it was, emblematic of the stress that Apollo's attack gave her, and it showed, like, how her character has completely had to, like, shift the way she thinks. Like, I've never thought about this stuff before. Maybe I should get on birth control, you know? Like, just show how much it's stressed her out, how much it's affected her life. But it didn't really. It was just, it felt like a PSA. Like, go to the OBGYN, kids.
I'm just wondering, because she went swimming in the pool at the Underworld Corp headquarters.
She's one of those people.
You know, I guess you can go swimming if you have like a tampon or something, but
no, it's gross.
Yeah, I mean, why
it's so
would
gross.
you? Why would you though? So
I mean, I guess like for you just change the tampon out, but it's like gross to get in the pool with that. Maybe she just decided to get on birth control that stopped her period completely, but it's like you could, like, again, if she went to the clinic and she's like, and the doctor was like, if you get really concerned about this sort of thing, why don't you just take this birth control, you know?
Yeah.
Then it would be like a change. Something changed as a result of that, arc. Like, either she gets on birth control so that never happens again, and then, like, it can affect the story later, or it changes her life. Like, she does get on birth control because of the Apollo attack. She's like, you know, I don't even feel good about taking these chemicals. If she's a hippie, I don't even feel good about taking these chemicals, but now I have to because of what Apollo did to me.
Yeah, or the fact she's a fertility goddess and the birth control doesn't work. And she's like, great. Wow.
I mean, like, you could have done something where that mini arc contributed to a greater arc in a way that it was, like, closed off, like, she's not pregnant.
Yeah.
But it contributed to her character, it contributed to the fertility goddess thing, it contributed to her wrath against Apollo, something. But it just comes and goes, and you don't even get, like, an emotional feeling from her. No. It's not like the pregnancy clinic caused her to steal his lyre. She stole his lyre before she went to the pregnancy clinic. So it doesn't achieve or contribute to the plot in any way at all. So yeah, it's completely pointless.
Yeah, well, that tangent aside, now getting back to this.
Oh, speaking of the lyre, Apollo is just at Calliope's getting a new lyre anyway, so that was to rub salt in the wound of how pointless that was.
Yeah. And this
whole exchange, not only is it pointless because it completely invalidates Persephone's quote-unquote wrath against Apollo, it also introduces yet another character, Calliope, who never comes back ever.
Really?
No.
So that's 2 in this season. There's Echo, who has yet to be seen, and then there's Calliope.
I don't think she comes back, but yeah, I don't remember either of these characters coming back. And then Apollo has a really weird face. I think it's because he sees Persephone, and that's why he reacts like that. But it's not like you show Persephone walking by outside and then cut to Apollo's weird face. You just cut to Apollo's weird face, and then he says, I won't. And then you cut to Persephone and Demeter hugging.
Yeah.
So it's like, what was he looking at? What the heck? And he's looking at the reader again. So I was like, what's going on?
It's very spooky. It's like you're reading this all of a sudden, and then he like
notices you.
Yeah. Like, you enjoying the story so
yeah,
far?
it's so weird.
You know? So yeah. And then we cut back to Hera's thoughts. Again, it's so weird to see these thoughts where in previous chapters, like just before this, we were seeing no thoughts for a period of time, right? So he goes, "Hey Percy, let's talk." And he goes, Hera, as Persephone says, "What are we going to talk about this lovely back alley? I've been trying to call your phone. You disconnect it? What would you need to call my phone for? You didn't say anything to Artemis or Daphne. I can't imagine what I would talk to them about that would be of any concern to you." And he goes, "Why are you acting so weird?" But this is like 2 days after she made the threat about telling Daphne.
That was on Thursday.
And Artemis, right?
It's not even 2 days. It's the next day.
Okay, so...
It's the next day.
Because he walked off from being like, well, who's going to believe you?
Yeah.
Who cares? And now he's like sweating and he's like...
I know.
Is it secret? Is
I
it
know.
safe? You know, like...
Is it secret? Is it safe?
The next day after he sent her the blackmail, the next day he's like, did you tell anyone?
Yeah, like...
Don't think I won't do it, you know?
Like, I totally don't care if you do because I have this leverage on you, but you didn't tell
I
anyone
know,
just in
it's so
case,
stupid.
Right? Yeah, so then she burns him, and then she reveals herself because she's an idiot. And that's the end of chapter 120. Alright guys, there you have it. Another video in the bag. Another 10 episodes discussed in painstaking detail.
It's so difficult to talk about more than 10 episodes now because it's just so bad. Like, we blitzed through the first 50 episodes and we only really started digging into like episode 50 through 70. And now it's like every single panel, every single conversation. It's like, why did he say that? Why did he say this? Why did this person respond like this? You almost have to dissect it because almost everything doesn't make sense from a story perspective, and then the art's just weird too, like cherry on the cake.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much stuff that is so distracting. It's really like trying to put together pieces of a puzzle, but what you don't realize is that, like, what you thought was a puzzle was just a bunch of pieces from different puzzles.
Yeah.
Right? And you're like, why isn't it working? Why isn't it fitting together? Oh, wait, it was never supposed to work because it had never been planned out at all from the beginning, right? And so, I mean... Again, like, there's nothing wrong with that. If people enjoy it, they can enjoy it. Like, just to read it, you don't have to take it super seriously or anything like that. I'm still, like, when you see, like, how popular Lore Olympus is, and you see the fact that it's got accolades, and that major news networks have covered it with high praise, like NPR, and people are treating it with a lot of gravity and a lot of seriousness, that's a little, like...
Are we reading the same series?
Yeah, like, why? You know, like if it's one of those things that people just enjoy, like, okay, I mean, again, like, SpongeBob, you know, you don't watch it on, like, a back-to-back basis, breaking it down, everything like that, but it's really, like, one of those things where if you actually sit down and you apply, like, an ounce of critical thinking to it, you're like, this is kind of like a mess, right? It's just totally falling apart at the seams. And you had told me that season 1 was what people said was good. People who were former fans who have become critical of the series insisted that season 1 was good. We just finished season 1. You know, I mean, where?
Yeah.
What do you like about it? Like, put a comment down below, like, or if you can articulate that to me, because this is my first read of it. And I didn't, like, when I was reading it quickly on my phone, and this is just us talking on a sofa, right? Mm-hmm. Like, we didn't prepare for this, we didn't sit down, I didn't go panel by panel painstakingly, I didn't, you know,
write a script.
Yeah, no scripts, not referencing any secondary sources for, like, proof of what I'm saying. This is just my first opinion, you know, unadulterated.
First pass.
Yeah, first pass, unadulterated opinion, and I don't understand. I mean, yeah. So, I guess as it goes on, the writing becomes, like, you start to see where all these traps are springing up, where it's like, well, hang on a second, you said this in a previous episode, like, just as we were reading episode 119, Don't Tell Zeus, episode 127 or 126.
126.
Why would Zeus, why would that raise any red flags? Eros, dude, like, you still haven't talked about Apollo. the 3,000 drachma given to her, I refuse to believe a stupid little handkerchief is going to
I know. If she spent 3,000 drachma on a handkerchief and that expensive comb was also worth 2,000 drachma, then she's an idiot.
Yeah, it's worth 2,000. It's worth less than the handkerchief.
It is worth less than the handkerchief.
And then little things like noticing, she said I should be due for like a period around this time. Nothing about that. She goes swimming in the pool at work, right? It's like, okay.
Yeah, maybe the gods' periods are different because their blood is gold.
We wouldn't know, right? We wouldn't know
It's
because
not in the text.
The act of wrath happened. It was like a blink of an eye. Very underwhelming. No build up.
No setup, really.
Yeah,
nothing from Persephone.
When you sit down and you just ask the question, like Hades saying he's watched this tape over and over again. He skipped work. Eventually came to the conclusion that he skipped work to watch that tape. It's just odd. Like a lot of really strange stuff.
If you consider the fact that the Act of Wrath is the season 1 finale, and so is the videotape, and the story was building up from that, ostensibly from episode 1.
Yeah.
115 episodes later, 2 years later. Is that the feeling you get from the first half of season 1? I don't think the Act of Wrath was ever a serious concern or a seriously started to be built up until like maybe 10 episodes before it actually happened.
Yeah, like I would have to go back and look.
It was when Thanatos was digging into her background.
Yeah, I don't.
And no, the Hermes and Demeter bribing scene was the first scene that explicitly said she'd done something bad, and that's why her name was changed, and that's why she was brought to the mortal realm.
Yeah, I mean,
that was around episode 80.
I don't
70,
care.
80. No,
Yeah.
the Artemis backstory was after the slap, or around the time of the slap.
Yeah.
That was over a year and a half into the story that she started building up the Act of Wrath.
Yeah, I mean, I don't care, like, if I was going to read this comic and, if you just give me the first 10 chapters, because I think Webtoon likes to use the first 3 chapters to give audiences...
First 5.
Yeah, the first 5 chapters to give audiences, like, a glimpse of what to expect from the series going forward. If you had shown me the first 5 chapters of Lore Olympus, I thought it would have ended up being like a cute office romantic comedy.
They didn't go to the office till episode 30-something.
Yeah, but, I mean, that's right. Oh, gosh.
The first 5 to 10...
She wakes up in his house,
The first
right?
5 chapters is like the paparazzi thing.
Oh, yeah, okay, so then I would have thought...
And celebrities and Kardashians.
And that's kind of like the tagline of the series.
I feel like every 20 episodes, the story completely changes.
Yeah.
First it's the Kardashians and celebrity angle, then it's the office comedy angle, and then we shift to, like, what did Persephone do, and, like, this huge, serious story about the Act of Wrath, and now we're in, like, the trial arc. So it's like, the story keeps changing.
Yeah.
Just commit to something.
Please.
Is it going to be a gossipy, trashy Kardashian celebrity culture thing? Is it going to be an office comedy? Is it going to be, like, a serious story about morality and, like, the politics of the underworld? Is it going to be a friggin', like, legal story? Like, I mean, it's crazy. It's really crazy.
Yeah, so it all just comes back, like, it's all building to the conclusion here, which we've mentioned, like, many times throughout this video, is that nothing is being planned. And it's like, you would think after, it's kind of like, again, it's kind of like when we write comics, we do something risky in the story that we didn't really plan for in the original plan of the story. Then you take a break and you develop a plan because you don't want to do that again, because you will kill yourself. Like, you will shoot yourself in the foot and your story will fall off a cliff so fast if you keep doing that. I mean, just look what happened to Lost, right? You take a break and you sit down and you make a plan. She never did that. She just kept going and making it up as she went along. She never learned from the mistake.
No.
So...
She keeps writing herself in corners.
Yeah, I don't know why you would do that if you have so many assistants who want to help you, and you have a writer, like an editor, right?
She has assistants who are pretty much taking away... The whole point of the assistants is to take away the manual process of drawing and creating a comic. So she draws the roughs and she draws the thumbs. From there, you should have all week to just sit on your story and come up with a plan.
Yeah.
The second she hired assistants in episode 50, she should have sat down, because now her workload has gone from 80 hours a week to like 20 hours a week at maximum. She should have sat down and gone like, okay, now that I don't have to worry about drawing this comic week to week, how can I improve the story so that it makes sense from here?
Right.
And now that I don't have to worry about drawing the comic week to week, how can I ensure that the assistants are replicating my style in a way that's consistent and even above and beyond? because you have so many assistants. Like, why isn't the art getting better?
Right.
You would think the art would get better. Like,
Yeah.
maybe the style changes, but the art would get better. And the style's changed, but the art is worse. Far, far worse.
Yeah, I mean, you were flipping through some panels of a previous chapter yesterday,
Mm-hmm.
and I just glanced over and I was like, holy smokes, that is so much better than the art that we're seeing even at this point now at like 120.
The end of season 1.
Yeah, and you know, it's one of those things that's really odd. Like, I don't understand what's going on behind the scenes.
Again, we produced a comic with the two of us.
Yeah.
And I would say the art for both of our individual comics is pretty good.
Yeah.
As is, but the panel count is limited because instead of pushing out long panels, like, again, we're not getting paid, we're canvas creators. We don't have a webtoon contract and panel requirement. But I would say by ourselves, we're probably pushing out on a weekly basis, or we were because we're both on hiatus. Our schedule's kind of taking a hit because of these videos. But by ourselves, we were producing 40 to 50 panels on a weekly basis, and the art was more than decent, I would say. In fact, I would say that the art for our comics is better than Lore Olympus.
Yeah.
And we weren't using, well, you were using 3D assets, but they were all made by yourself, so you were taking the time to make your 3D assets. I was using composites for the background, which are, yes, I take images from like Google Images or whatever, but I like stitch them together to make a landscape that I need, and then I do a lot of hand rendering to integrate all of those assets together.
Yeah.
But yeah, so by ourselves, we were producing 40, 50 panels. When we were producing a comic together, just two people, our panel count went from like 40 to 50 to like 80, sometimes even upwards of 100 and we always made our weekly deadline. And the art is even better than what we were able to achieve by ourselves.
Yeah.
Like, shockingly, I was looking at the old comic the other day and I was like, oh, I bet this will be worse than my current comic by myself. And I was like, actually, no, the art is even better than what I'm able to achieve by myself.
Yeah.
The style is different, but the art is definitely better. So it's just shocking when I see the art degrade with like 8 people working on it, 6 people working on it, 5 people working on it. I'm just shocked because if we had 8 people working for us, we would be putting out like 3 comics at once.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, I mean,
It's just crazy.
yeah.
And from that perspective, for me, it's like there's no excuse because the workload should be so minimal for a single person if you're managing it correctly.
It's all about like scheduling and prioritizing.
Planning.
And really like
Time management,
but also using your pattern recognition. Again, it's that iterative process. You look at what you did last time that got in the way of completing the comic on time, and you look for ways how you can improve. Like, that's why I went to 3D CGI models in the first place, is because I tried to do my own solo comic in 2020, and the backgrounds are just killing me because it's like I can't make this consistent every single time. Like, it sucks. It's so hard. And so I taught myself Blender, which is free. Yeah, we scripted in advance till like episode 10. And because we wanted to set up things in like episode 7, for example, that were going to pay off in episode 10. So to know exactly how to pace it and time it correctly, we scripted all the way up until episode 10 so that when we made episode 7, we put everything that we needed to put into it to set that up. So we had plenty of time to do that. Like, I didn't
when you had 2 people working on it, because we were both sharing the art load, the art, like, not only were we able to put out more panels, but I was also working less towards the end. Like, once we got into the groove of things and we learned the tricks of the trade, we were working less on a comic jointly together than we were on our singular comics and producing like, and with our singular comics producing less than half of what we were able to produce with our joint comics.
Yeah.
Because with the joint comic, it's not only the writing process that you get to share for one comic and the art process that you get to share for one comic. You only have to do one set of thumbs, and thumbs take me a really long time to do because it's mentally strenuous.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, yeah, the more people you have, it's exponential returns at that rate, because it's not just the art, it's also the mental load of having more people working on the comic.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, when we do our art, there's a very specific pattern, or like a very specific set of things, right?
It's like assembly line.
Yeah, it's first you have the thumbs in the script, where you plan where everything goes, panel sizes, and the speech bubbles. That's the first step. And then for me, I do the backgrounds after that. I put all the backgrounds in. And then after that, I draw the characters, and then I do the flats of the characters, and then I do the lighting and shading for the characters and the backgrounds at the same time to get the atmosphere just right. And then finally, I do the finishing filters on top, whether that's like overlays or just the texture filters. and then I do the sound effects at the very
And
end.
I don't think she does that. I think she has different people completely rendering different panels.
Yeah.
Which is so inefficient.
Yeah.
Because if you have different people rendering different panels, that's how you end up with one character looking completely different from panel to panel, the colors being completely different panel to panel, and the backgrounds being totally different panel to panel.
Yeah.
You should have one dedicated background artist, one dedicated line art person, so that all the characters look consistent. Even if they don't look like how Rachel draws them, they at least look consistent to that person's style, the new assistant's style.
Yeah.
And then you should have one person doing all the flats, one person doing all of the extra effects, like all the glowies, which have completely disappeared from the comic since like episode 40 something.
Yeah.
And she just doesn't have that. That's why you have those scenes in nature where every single panel is a different color nature. Every single panel, Persephone looks totally different. Every single panel, the scale is totally changed. And she was doing that in episode 50. She's still doing that in episode 220.
Yeah.
Like 2 years later.
Yeah.
3 years later.
In that joint comic, and then on the solo comic, every time we did lighting, it's like I would do the lighting, right? The key lighting. So I would reference the exact same color every single time. Just knock it out.
All of it in one go.
Yeah, you would draw the same characters every single time, so they always looked like themselves, right? It wasn't, I take a turn drawing this character, you take a turn drawing that character.
When you have two artists drawing multiple characters, you assign one artist to each character, so the character's always consistent.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that is impossible to do is to exactly replicate how another person draws the same character.
Yeah.
That's really difficult to do.
Yeah, I mean, even from, like, the way two different artists hold a pencil is totally different. I mean, you saw my thumbs for like, the action scenes, and it was, like, just the way that I approached drawing a head was totally different from yours, right? Because it's a totally different brain that's piloting the Eva, you know? So it's just odd that it seems like there's not a system in place to make things easier, and I don't understand why there wouldn't be.
There should be an assembly line process.
Yeah.
You don't have people working on an animated movie where it's like Takashi and Kaoru both take turns drawing backgrounds and characters. You have a character artist and you have a background artist.
Yeah.
That's what they focus on.
Yeah.
That's what you do. It's like basic, Henry Ford invented the assembly line in like 1909 or something. That's what you do because it's the most efficient method of production.
Yeah. It's like, if you know that you make backgrounds with composites, and I know I make them with 3D CG, and
why would you switch the two artists back
Yeah.
and forth if they approach it totally differently?
Exactly, especially like if one takes a certain amount of time and the other takes another amount of time.
And if you don't even have references for how the scene should look, so each panel the artist is going with a totally different interpretation.
Yeah, because it's like they're all working remotely. They're not all there together. And
They
so
don't
then-
even have a character palette or a character reference sheet.
No, and then they send all of their independent work to the same source, which then compiles it into an episode. And then when you actually sit down and read the episode, you're like, what is this? Like, why did the characters look so different from panel to panel? What is this person doing? Where are they?
Even if you gave them complete creative freedom, like let's say Rachel just writes the script and
Yeah.
then she's like, okay, have fun, thumb it out and then draw it however it is from the script. I'm outsourcing all of the art to you. Sure, the art style would change, but if you had one person doing the characters, one person doing the backgrounds, one person doing the flats, and one person doing the effects, I'm sure it would look better than whatever it is we're getting right now. Even if they had to draw it however they wanted, with the caveat to stick to her original style as close as possible, you would still get the consistency, even if the style changed. And I think at this point, it's lacking style, consistency, composition, color, like everything's lacking. So if you took out Rachel completely from the art process whatsoever and just handed it to some assistant to be the lead coordinator for the characters, another person's lead coordinator for the backgrounds, another person's lead coordinator for effects, it would look better. Because I've seen her assistants work on Instagram. A lot of them, I would say most of them, are actually better at art than she is.
The only thing I can think of right now is the reason they don't do that is because it's the same reason why the story hasn't improved much in the writing is because of ego.
Yeah.
Right? And it's a thing of like you want to have total creative control over something even though you shouldn't. It's like George Lucas. Star
Yeah,
Wars,
this reminds me a lot of George Lucas.
right? So George Lucas wanted to have total creative control, and it took like a studio saying, "Look, you have like a multi-billion-dollar property on your hands at Star Wars. We're not going to let you ruin it by turning it into a musical, George.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
Shut up, George. Shut up." But unfortunately, I don't think. Well, I don't know about unfortunately, but I don't think Webtoon had that same approach to Lore Olympus. They just kind of let Rachel and her team work it out.
No, because she's the cash cow.
Yeah.
But apparently her stats haven't been doing so well, and she's been vague tweeting about a lot of stuff lately. So who knows? We'll
Yeah.
see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, for sure. But that was another 10 episodes of Lore Olympus. And at this pace, maybe we'll catch up in 10 weeks to the current.
I think the reason it's taking so long is because we're covering major events in the story and like
Yeah.
how much of a failure it is at this point. I think as the story gets more and more filler, like the trial arc, there's so many chapters that pass with nothing happening, so we might be able to pick up the pace a little bit more. But
Yeah, just kind of summarize, I guess.
yeah. I mean, let us know in the comments if you like this approach or not, if you think we go too much in detail, or if you think we could, like, pick it up a little.
Yeah.
Like, gloss over events more, stop talking about the wonky art.
Yeah.
Stop nitpicking conversations, like, wait a minute, why wouldn't you want to tell Zeus? Because 7 chapters later, you say, why not tell Zeus, you know?
Yeah.
Like, if you don't like this level of detail, just let us know and we'll pick up the pace. But if not, you know, our brains just get stuck on random things and kind of harp on them. So
No, I mean, it's why it takes us so long to do any projects by ourselves, because we're constantly getting in the way of our own thing, where we're like, is this good enough? Does that make sense?
highly self-critical.
Yeah, very like, believe us, we tear apart our own stuff the same exact way. It's like impossible when we're working by ourselves without another pair of eyes looking at it. It's impossible to move forward. You just got to make the executive decision. So you guys can make that decision for us and let us know, and we would appreciate that. Also, if you like this video, feel free to drop a comment, give a like, subscribe. It helps the channel out. It helps recommend this video to other people, and they can check us out and see what we're all about. So we'd really appreciate that too. But yeah, I guess until next time.
Till next week, same time, same place.
Yeah. Same
Lore
comic.
Olympus. The next 10 episodes.
Help me. Yeah. All right. We'll see you later.
See you guys.